Denmark's prime minister has said that a U.S. attack on Greenland would be, quote, the end of everything. This follows U.S. President Donald Trump's warning to, quote, talk about Greenland in 20 days, which many believe is a deadline for a forced takeover. Following the sudden U.S. military raid that captured the leader of Venezuela this weekend, Denmark and Greenland are no longer treating Trump's words as a fantasy. Greenland's prime minister told Trump to stop his, quote, annexation fantasies, while Denmark's prime minister made it clear that if the U.S. attacks its own ally, the rules of global security will be dead, saying, quote, if the United States decides to military attack another NATO country, then everything would stop, adding, quote, that includes NATO and therefore post-World War II security. Trump said, quote, we need Greenland, as he told journalists on Sunday, stressing that this was necessary for Washington's, quote, national security, and claiming that the island was surrounded by, quote, Chinese and Russian ships. Trump has also offered in the past to buy Greenland, while not ruling out the use of military force to take it over. Denmark's prime minister has said that a U.S. attack on Greenland would be, quote, the end of everything. This follows U.S. President.
All right, Shalom. First thing first, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders at Great Millstone, those who rule well and who I learned this truth from. Salutation to the brothers stiffly pushing this one truth, and all sincerity and diligence, risking your lives and freedoms to do so. Shalom to the rest of the elect, as we all await the second Exodus coming quickly by the hands of Lord Yahweh Shah. This is your brother Rakagabar. All right, and it's prophesied. All right, we're witnessing the collapse, all right, and the divide of America and NATO. All right, which we know this is prophetic. All right, you know, the fact that we're seeing these global tensions, okay, everything Trump is doing, everything he's boasting of doing, all right, is ultimately going to sour the relations with America's closest allies, man. All right, you know, in the latest, Trump is talking about taking over Greenland. You know, he mentioned Colombia. All right, I believe the president of Mexico. You know, this dude is going on a rampage. Well, as far as NATO, all right, which stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organization, you know, that's a alliance with America and those European countries, man. Okay. And so the prime minister of Denmark pretty much said NATO is done if, you know, Trump, all right, actually goes forth, you know, trying to seize and take over Greenland, which, you know, looking at this dude's track record, I wouldn't be surprised if he did make that move. All right. Of course, we're going to wait and see. But nonetheless, as prophecy warned us, we will witness, all right, the collapse between this conglomeration, man. OK, Europe, you know, America, you know, once were very strong allies, you know, even though certain members were weaker, you know, certain members were stronger, you know, militarily and economically. At the end of the day, that whole alliance is crumbling. This is Revelation 17. And let's get to the point. Revelation chapter 17 and verse 10, it say, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. It say, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition, which perdition goes into destruction. All right, you know, 7 beasts. Okay, ultimately, America comes out of those 7 beasts. Okay, America's the 8th beast. All right, but when you read the chapter, you know, the beast was ultimately a 7-headed dragon. All right, which, you know, I don't want to grab all of it. But, you know, a 7-headed dragon, which goes into the Edomite empires, man. All right. The Greeks, the Romans, Germana Major, Germana Minor, you know, the Spanish, the French, and the British. And where did America come? America came out of the British, you know, Great Britain. That's where America came from. So it's the 8th beast that came from the other 7 beasts. All right. It say, even he is the 8th and is of the 7 and goeth into perdition, destruction, man. And everything you see gearing up on a world stage is what? War. All right. Now you got it to where people are talking of Russia and China, you know, getting involved potentially because of what Trump did with Maduro, you know, and at the same time, again, Trump is boasting of taking over more people's conquering more peoples, man. So all of this is culminating into what the destruction of America. All right, and this is why scriptures say a house divided can't stand. If Satan be divided against Satan, how can his kingdom? How can his house stand, man? How can his kingdom continue on when America is feuding with NATO members and vice versa, man? How can this once great empire, if you will, continue on? Well, it can't. It can't. All right. But verse 12, and the 10 horns, which goes into the those NATO, those European members, all right, that ultimately, like I said, have this alliance, these particular alliances with America, Babylon the Great, which was ultimately set up, in lieu of World War II. All right, but at the end of the day, this is we see this whole conglomeration is falling apart. It say, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So they've been ruling alongside America. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. And that's a sign their power and strength is NATO. What's that article? I forget what article it is, but attack against one member is an attack against all of them. And then they all would get involved. Yeah, that's a sign of them giving their power and strength. All right. But it say, we're going to skip down to verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. Who's the whore? America. America, Babylon the Great is the whore. All right. That spreads its fornications worldwide. It says, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Yeah, the judgment of a whore is to be burned with fire, man. So America, Babylon the Great, the judgment for this place is what? Thermonuclear destruction. And again, the division between America and NATO and all the talks and tariffs and whatnot, this is all leading up into that. Because members of NATO, as we're about to show you, the European members are going to turn on this place, man. I mean, especially the fact that they right next door to Russia. They right next door to all the smoke going on. So, some of them are going to be like, well, look, man, certain dealings with Russia or China, will better suit me than lingering on to the U.S. dollar, which is proven to have, to lose value, to continue to lose value, man. See, it say verse 17, for the Most High had put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. All right. But the point was that, things are happening to where the European members are hating this place, man. And I mean, can you blame them? I mean, look who the fuck is in office and everything he's been doing and everything he's been saying he's going to do, all right, to his very own allies. Well, I mean, what the fuck do you think is going to come to that, man? And we even when you look at Turkey, yeah, on paper they're a part of NATO, but I mean, they pretty much ready to jump ship. You got members that's already really ready to jump ship, especially when you had that the sabotaging of the Nord Stream pipelines. Okay. That was pretty much Russia feeding that oil into Europe. When you had that sabotage take place, America was involved. That alone, left a bad taste in some of those European members' mouth. So, ultimately, this is all by design. This is prophetic, man, that we watching this place. This place fall apart. See? All right, and I'm just looking through these comments. Okay. Let's see here. Give me one moment. This is Daniel. Daniel chapter 2 and verse 40. It's saying the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, which this is going into the Roman Empire. All right. And as iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces and bruise. Okay, because this chapter, goes into the ancient empires, starting with the Babylonians. All right, and then Medes and Persians, then the Greeks, and then the fourth was the Roman Empire, which ultimately is revitalized today as America. It say, verse 41, and whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, which is where we're at, all right, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. See? But there should be in it of the strength of iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part iron and part clay, so the kingdom should be partly strong and partly broken. Like I said, certain countries, stronger militaries, stronger economies than others, And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. All right, so this is why they're divided. And in the days of these kings, the Most High of heaven shall set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So that's where we're at. We're in the time where the Lord, Yahweh, is sending Yahweh Shah back. All right, and this is why you have all this division on the earth, man. Okay, this is why you have all this division on the earth, because the Lord is shaking shit up before the great return of our Lord, man. Because when the Lord returns, all of these empires, whatever you want to call it, these nations are going down, and the Lord is going to set up Yahweh Shah and the Israelites, all right, to rule the planet Earth in righteousness forever and ever, man. Okay, so when we see prophetic things like this take place, we rejoice in the spirit, because ultimately, we know that this is the end of this man's regime. All right, the end of these Edomites, man. All right, but with that, I'm going to close it. I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah, DTAY, Baba Ball, Shalom.